Welcome to a football show Monday edition, 4th of July week edition. That is Paul Kuharsky. I am Braden Gall. We are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. PK, how are you? Good afternoon, sir.
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited about Wednesday night, of course. Excited about this World Cup thing that's just continuing to bring joy and just actual good vibes to social media, which is like a new feeling I've had. I haven't had that feeling in a long time. So very excited about Wednesday night. Obviously, we'll have all kinds of great beverages from Sinkers Beverages at our watch party at our house, of course, on Wednesday evening. If you want to get out and check out a watch party, East Nashville Beer Works is a great place to do it in East Nashville, but also out in Wilson County. But if you're stocking up for a home watch party, make sure you swing by Sinkers Beverages for all your great needs. They had some E.H. Taylor, some Blantons out on the floor today. So if you want to swing by and pick that stuff up, that's great. They also have a great selection of amazing local craft beers for those of you who want to drink beer. All right. So today, obviously, we're going to get into the Chris Johnson, Tim Shaw ALS story real quickly here at the top. You wrote a couple of short stories about this, so we'll get into that. But I wanted to kind of set up a choose your own adventure to some degree. It's a holiday week. We're not going to have a long show today. Love to have you guys involved in the comment section. Thumbs up, notifications turned on, all that stuff. But it is a holiday week for most everybody out there. And so I thought I would ask the question sort of like, what do the next 3 to 5 years look like for the Tennessee Titans if two different things happen? And that is all about Cam Ward. And if Cam Ward is great, top 10, what does that look like for this team? What are the things they're going to need to address in order to maximize their potential to compete at the highest level? And then what do the next 3 to 5 years look like if Cam Ward is not the answer and is not the player that Mike Borgonzi thought he was when he drafted him at number 1 overall a little while ago? So I want to kind of just like explore the studio space a little bit on those two things, and what does that actually mean from a personal
Excuse me.
Bless you, Gesundheit. And so that's kind of what we're going to do today. If you want to get involved, please do so. Bust and Diamond, thoughts and prayers with CJ2K. I have a lot of memories of him tearing up the turf at LP Field. One underrated CJ moment was in 2013 in a preseason game against the Redskins when he juked the life out of Bakari Rambo.
No preseason moment is underrated.
That's hard. I kind of agree with you on that one. All right, so let's start with Chris Johnson. And the thing that I know you have a relationship with Tim Shaw, who was a teammate of Chris Johnson's back in the day. He has been the thing that really shocked me, PK, and I think probably shocks everybody, is 12 years. Is that correct? That Shaw has been dealing with this. Chris Johnson's at a year.
A little over a year.
About, and they seem to be on incredibly different trajectories. And it's just absolutely harrowing and terrifying to hear, and scary, and thought-provoking for me personally on a personal level, like just kids and family and seeing him with his kids. And the interview was very impressive that he did with Michael Strahan with his wife. The story is devastating, and the stark difference between the two, I guess diagnoses, is that the right word? Like that is the absolute most terrifying part of this, is that you could get this diagnosis and then not be able to speak or hold a cup less than a year later.
Yeah. And as I texted with Tim Shaw earlier today, I asked him about the pace of this with Chris Johnson. He said 2 years into his own diagnosis, he was playing golf. 2 years. Now, this is a little over a year for Chris Johnson. He's already not able to speak using the speech generator with his eyeballs and not able to hold a cup. So he said a little over a year ago in the GMA interview, he said, I was holding my 7-year-old daughter like up over a table in order to blow out birthday candles on a cake. I mean, that is a ridiculously faster pace than what Tim Shaw had. So like with most diseases, there's the broad label of the disease, and then there's a variation as to how quickly it can advance. And Tim Shaw got a much slower version than Chris Johnson got, which is a terrible development. CJ obviously is, done a lot of dealing with it, and his wife was fantastic too. He wants to bring awareness to it. Didn't settle for the early answer he got where, hey, these medicines may help you extend your life for a bit, but get your affairs in order.
Yeah.
And found more aggressive doctors and the like, and obviously now has a huge outpouring of support. I talked to somebody connected to Steve Gleason today and gave him CJ's information. So I'm sure Gleason will be in touch with him soon. Tim's been talking to him for a while already. And then Tim Shaw, who's a remarkable guy, said, I don't know if I've really been a help to Chris Johnson, but he's been a huge help to me. It got me fired up to go get into a couple more clinical trials and have a couple more treatments, which is, a rather amazing thing, that speaks to both of them.
Horrible. Ed Henry says horrible news. Progression seems so advanced. Hug someone you love. I'm curious. Was there a hint that it was progressing this quickly with Chris at any point over the last year?
I don't know that anybody knew that he had. I mean, I didn't know that he had it. A lot of people are going way overboard. Let's stop this. He had a tick, right? A lot of people have ticks that don't have ALS. A lot of doctors online are saying, oh, well, that tick, you knew something was up and that he was going to. Nobody has said anything about the tick being a forecaster of ALS or anything. There are a lot of people with ticks that don't have ALS. Don't be Twitter MD and conclude that those two are related. Now, what is related, it appears, is, from my internet search, I found about 30 names that of NFL guys, dead and alive, who have ALS. There's a study that's over 10 years old from Harvard that compared football players to baseball players, and football players were like 4 times more likely than baseball players, which I think we could look at as 4 times more likely than normal people, normal athletic people, to come down with neurological diseases like ALS. I think it is kind of, this is a layman speaking, just having done good reading. It's akin to CTE in some way, shape, or form, though I didn't ask Tim about this today, but Tim said when he was diagnosed that he did not blame football for it. And there are a lot of people with ALS who we're not talking to, who are not public faces of the disease, who did not play football. But, I think a lot of us look at it and say, boy, there are a lot of ALS faces from football.
That's what I was thinking. And one of my next questions was going to be, do you get a sense to the scope of this among football players relative to the general population? Certainly Gleason's story was so high profile because it felt like one of the first ones, and it's just tied to that moment, right, with that city and that team. And this is hard to talk about without talking about sort of Tim Shaw's football career in a weird way, which is not at all important in real life. But it's not that awareness needs to be raised on this, right? It's not like people don't know about it. But when a player of Chris Johnson's caliber and career and like Q rating, for lack of a better term,
the best player on this list,
like it's not even close. And so I'm curious what that does to conversations, what that does. Ed already asked about CBA impact in all of this. Like, I wonder what it actually does meaningfully to the conversation, because Chris Johnson had such a, like, he's not like Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders in the national conversation here. I get that. But with this fan base, this city, this community, like, he's as big as it gets. And so I'm curious what a player like that having this, and frankly, what appears to be a tragic trajectory, what that actually does to the conversation, if anything. And I hope it does something.
And, I wasn't making a connection. He and Shaw were teammates.
Yeah.
For Shaw's 3 years here, they were teammates. I asked Tim today if he had a picture of them together. He said, I can't make it that easy for you. I don't. It's just kind of, what are the odds, know?
Yeah, that's right. Same again. You mentioned a few names in your story, and Gleason comes to mind. Like, Michael J. Fox comes to mind. Like, I'm watching Shrinking on Apple with my wife. It's one of the best shows on television. A lot of ALS is featured very prominently with the main character in that show. And I guess maybe I'm of an age I didn't pay attention to this kind of stuff in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. I was too young. didn't care. Now I'm getting older and I care more about this stuff in general, just as a human being. And it does feel like football is has a chance to make this center stage. I don't know what the right word is, the right phrasing is. These things happen to people, and then because of the profile of the person it happens to, does change the way we view things or support things or talk about things or whatever. So we'll see what happens. Certainly, thinking about the families, and it's crazy for you to even like say, well, Tim got lucky. You know what I'm saying? Like, that just feels like a weird thing to say. But I sure hope that there's more awareness around this stuff. And there's one last conversation around this, PK, and I don't know how you feel about this, but there are a lot of people in my life, including my wife, who grew up loving watching football. Football is my favorite sport. It is, always has been, and probably always will be. And she does not enjoy the violence of it anymore. And that is, she still watches the Packers. She'll watch the Titans. She still watches the Super Bowl and the playoffs. Like, it's not like she is like grotesque. She's not grossed out by it. But like, it's just not her thing. She's older. She's changed. She watches soccer and golf now. And so I'm just curious, do you feel any change about this? Do you feel any change with fans looking at the game differently at all?
I don't really. I mean, I think it makes everybody cringe, but we're addicted to it and we love it. And we cringe and then we turn it back on and we hope it doesn't happen to the next guy. I think the league, knows that. Like, there's a wide check era CTE guy that is,
Junior Seau, I think, is the face of that. I
needs to age out, if you will. And then they think, this is my belief, that the league thinks after that age guy. So Frank was a little bit younger than me. I think I'm 57. I think he might have been 54 when he died, maybe.
Yeah.
Jeez. And that's a couple of years ago already. Once those guys, that era, phase out, live their lives out, hopefully not dying young because of brain injury, that it will be less of an issue because of the player safety stuff that they installed. I don't know that that's going to save it. I have a doctor friend who thinks the subconcussive hits in high school, get this whole thing started, and it's not addressed at an early enough level and all of that. There's so much unknown, in science that you can't examine, and the brain is a, hard to investigate thing, especially while you're alive. But I think the league thinks that these things the cases cannot be so ugly and obvious, when a guy's in his 30s and 40s and 50s.
Committing suicide.
Tamps it down.
Well, and so, I think that's fair. I think the NFL knows that with the money it's investing in flag football and the money it's investing on luring women to the game, I think the NFL knows full well that it's got a problem. If you look at youth participation numbers in general, not that we're, you're a huge soccer fan, I'm a huge soccer fan, but it's the third most popular sport in this country because it's past other sports. I just think there's a whole generation of parent that looks at it differently. And while I agree with Coach Wills here saying, no, it's never going to slow down. Too many people in the world who view sports football as an opportunity to change family trajectories. I don't disagree with you. It's the reason that that a kid in the Dominican who grew up on a dirt floor is going to take steroids to get to Major League Baseball. Like, it's worth the risk, right? The risk reward proposition is too great if you're a great shortstop or prospect or whatever. And so I don't disagree with that from a football standpoint, but all it takes is, like 1 in 10 parents every couple of years to be like, no, we're not going to play football. And then after 10 or 15 or 20 years, you got a much smaller talent pool. And hopefully the game gets smarter because I love the game. It's my favorite sport. It's the one I played. Yes, my wife, she'll agree that I've had head injuries before in the past. So I don't know. I don't know what this does long term. That's
It
really
does-
my question.
It has quieted down the health concern stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if this re-raises that conversation.
Yeah.
And I'll say, look, I have no doubt that I have some things, not to make it about me. I didn't play football. I'd discourage my kid from playing football, and he went a different direction.
It's got a good swing, by the way.
Thanks.
Just
But
letting you know.
I had several concussions as a kid. I broke this, and I had 2 or 3 concussions on top of that. And I'm certain they have some kind of bearing on some issues I have, headache issues, and maybe even a little brain fog at times or stuff. And these are not the kind of concussions that football players experience. I didn't get hit on top of them and all of that stuff. Somebody here asking if Frank donated his brain. Frank donated his brain, and there have been results of Frank's brain. He had serious CTE.
Yeah. No, I played football in middle school in Texas and then at Franklin here. And my worst concussion ever was actually snowboarding. But I had probably at least 4 that I know of.
We're kind of the same.
My guess is that I probably had more in football practice that you don't realize. Like I had one in a game, and it was because it's the old, like when you're running down the sideline to catch a pass and you go up and you kind of turn your body and the defender hits you in the chest and you're going so fast that you snap your head back. And that's where I was like laying there looking at stars, but this was 1999 and you're like, all right, get back up and get back in the huddle. And that wasn't that long ago.
No,
that wasn't that long ago. And the issue is not, I actually don't have as much concern about NFL players. Yes, the violence is off the charts and they're the biggest, strongest, and fastest of this, but they have really good care. And the oversight during games in particular is very good from the NFL. Like the Tua thing is like hard to watch sometimes, but like they had people. They have people on top of this stuff pretty quickly to get you out of the game to monitor what's going on with you. What I am worried about is like not the SEC in college football, but like Conference USA and lower, where you don't have the TV cameras, you don't have the budgets to have all kinds of medical people on staff all the time. You're not tracking all this stuff throughout you don't have a deep enough roster. You need your best players. Like I'm worried about like the low Division I, Division II, Division III players who've been playing for 10 years through middle school, high school, and college, and nobody knows who they are or what they're going through. Like that's the group of people that I would be most concerned about.
You can't tell me there aren't a lot of guys in World Cup games playing through concussions. When you go up for those double headers and bang heads,
yeah, probably. Yeah.
Those guys are more than dinged.
This Joey says he coaches high school rugby, and the amount of kids we lose to flag football is staggering. The Titans have invested millions of dollars in fields around high schools in Nashville, almost specifically for flag football. And especially we know they're doing it for women to play flag football because they know there's another path there to bring in new fans. So anyway, we can move on from this. It's a tragic story. You can go to paulkuharsky.com and read both Tim's reaction to it as well as Chris's. It was a tough interview to watch, but I do recommend going to watch it because if nothing else, it will force you to appreciate what is going on around you at all times. And I do think that is something we all need kind of routinely in our lives, to be thankful for the things and the situations that we are in, even when it doesn't feel like they're all that great, So we'll put a pin in that one. Good stuff by you to have it up. I appreciate you wanting to talk about it and you guys wanting to listen to it. So go check it out. PaulKuharsky.com, Sinkers Beverages for all your needs. I don't know if Sinkers Beverages is the right sponsor to talk about after that story, but medical science will tell you a couple of beers in moderation. It's good for your health to build relationships with the people around you, just not too much, right? Everything in moderation on that front for sure. Okay, here's the question I wanted to ask. What happens over the next 3 to 5 years if the Tennessee Titans if Cam Ward is great for the Tennessee Titans or if Cam Ward is a bust for the Tennessee Titans? And we'll kind of go through each one of these, and I'll let you kind of explore the space here. First, before we do that, real quickly, press forward midtn.news. It's the survey I've asked you guys to fill out. It's back on now. We turned the survey back on. Press forward midtn.news. It's a great way for you guys to have a voice in what media looks like in your market. So in Middle Tennessee, fill out the survey. It takes less than 5 minutes. It's linked in the podcast show notes. So please fill that out for us. Just as a reminder, it's turned back on now. We could use your help in terms of gaining insight into what the market looks like, what you like, what you don't like about it. Really super fast, totally anonymous. We really appreciate it. All right, let's start with the good here, PK. Let's start with the good, and that is and I want to start where I think I asked you this question a few weeks ago on the show. I said, what's the main goal around Cam Ward in 2026? And I think I'm going to paraphrase here, but the gist of it is, by the end of the season, you need to know what you got. You need to know if this is a guy that you think can continue to develop into a player he doesn't have to be top 5 good, maybe not even top 10 good, but he needs to be good enough that you know that you can count on him for the next 8 to 10 years, and you figured that out. Or you have figured out that he's not going to be that guy by the end of the season. So let's start with the good, and let's say he does everything you want him to do. The accuracy things were just a summer thing. The receiving core looks good around him. He knows how to his footwork in the pocket is good, and his accuracy is better, and all the things look right, and they're competitive, and they win 8 or 9 games, and he's actually the guy, right, by the end of the year. I want to know what the team's strategy and plan looks like for the years that he is under his rookie contract. They find out he's really the guy. They find out for sure that we know he can win us playoff games. There is a lot to be done on this team. Even if he is great, there's a lot to be done over the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, it's 2 more under a affordable contract than the option kicks up to a different level, but still different. So I mean, you need to shore everything up. I think we're thinking if they get through this year with this offensive line, it's going to be scratching and clawing, right? Dan Moore is not a very good left tackle. If Dan Moore plays top level Dan Moore, you're getting average left tackle play, right? You need to see what JC Latham is. I think people want to be optimistic. You need him to prove that he is a top, not top flight, but above average, at least, right tackle, and somebody that you'd ideally like to sign to a second contract, right? You got Kuharsky, and he's going to get a new contract. But you're going to need to work on the offensive line. I think that's going to be priority one. It's going to be priority one until you have some guys locked in long-term there. So you're going to need a new left tackle. I would think he's going to be a high draft pick. You got to see what comes out of center and right guard competitions. You got to see what Latham does. And that's a lot of work there. So no matter how good Cam Ward is this year, he'll only be made better. The running game will only be made better by refortifying the offensive line. I think that would be the option one. Running backs contracts are up. Tony Pollard's contract's up. Tajay Spears, who you like a lot more than I do, contract is up. So what is Nick Singleton? I don't know that any of us are imagining Nick Singleton as a lead back. Maybe in a best case scenario, he could be a co-lead back, depending on how his vision develops at the NFL level. And I don't know that we're going to see enough of him as a rookie to know. Maybe Spears will be hurt enough that we'll see enough of him to know. But I think, for Cam Ward, a running game that goes with that offensive line would also be next. Wide receiver, if Carnell Tate is what we think he is, and everybody does what they're supposed to do, I think you're replacing Calvin Ridley. We've discussed this. Do you need to replace Calvin Ridley with a guy who is at least the caliber of what Calvin Ridley was at his peak? Or, as you and I have suggested, are Isle Manor and DK ready to be 3 and 4 instead of 4 and 5? And then can you be working on, a 4, say? That would be the ideal scenario. And then tight ends, they've got some guys wrapped up now long-term. Is that good enough for them to have tight ends of that caliber going with what they have at receiver already and add at running back? But like you said, a lot of work. So if he's good, fortify around him on the line at running back and see what you've got.
I think ultimately part of the reason I wanted to have this conversation is, one, it's a holiday and I wanted to kind of just explore a little bit. But the two things that I've landed on with both ends of this conversation, which is if he's bad or if he's good. And if he's bad, we'll get to that in a second. The amount of work that goes into that is just, it's mind-boggling. But if he's good, it's not that much less of work. Now it removes, I think, it doesn't necessarily, like, this might be interesting because Ed asked a good question about if Cam is really good and they win a lot over the next few years, does that mean Saleh was good all along, or good quarterbacks make good head coaches? And I would say yes. The answer is both.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. But here's the thing, like, part of the reason I wanted to do this is I was looking at the future of this team around Cam. And by the end of 2027, so at the end of two more seasons, Dan Moore, Schlotman, and Volson aren't going to be here. Ridley, Bellinger, Pollard, Spears probably not going to be here. But worst case scenario, let's just say worst case scenario is you have 3 starters figured out. You have Peter Skoronski, Carnell Tate, and Cam Ward figured out right now. That's a lot of, like, the strategy right now. I think best case scenario is you have 5, which is Helm and Latham. You add Helm and Latham, and you've got 5, and that's best case scenario, unless we look at the Ioman or DK. Are they good enough to be 2s and 3s? Because Robinson is not a long-term solution here. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong.
Deal?
Do you think? I mean, I think it was a 4-year deal, but there's an out after 2. So I'm just curious if you think. Like, I don't think he's a long-term solution. I think almost all these guys are short-term solutions.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going great in 2 years and he's helped make Cam great and Cam's helped make him great, then he could be a 4-year solution. I have to look at the structure of the contract. Yeah, we're not on defense yet, Dodd. Settle down.
No. He can be out after 2 seasons. He would be 27 years old, and his cap hit would be $18 million and $20 million, respectively, in those 2 seasons.
Now, I don't think those are outrageous, given that the cap will go up and given what he might be. I mean, if he's your highest targeted guy and he's giving you 1,000-yard years,
I like him.
18 or 20 cap on that. So I'm not saying he's out after 2 years. I'm saying he's possible.
Okay, so worst case scenario is you have 3 starters. In my opinion, that's Skoronski, Tate, and Ward. Best case scenario, you may have 6, which is Robinson, Tate, Helm, Latham, and Skoronski. But the thing that struck me was, like, this entire team is constructed to some degree. There's 2 different ways. One is the last 2 draft classes, right, which is a bunch of talent that Borgonzi's bringing in, try to elevate the floor. The other part of the roster is like outside of Jeffrey Simmons, and maybe, I guess, Amani Hooker might be in that group, like a veteran that's been here. The rest of the roster is Volsons and Schlotmans, and, like, it's guys that are here to fill in until a solution is presented down the road. And the receiving core, I guess you could say, is probably okay with Tate, Ioman, or DK, maybe Helm. The running back room in 2 years could be completely a giant question mark and an unknown, and the offensive line could be a giant question mark and an unknown.
Yeah, you're right. But what you need is, while you pick up those guys who are 1 or 2 or maybe 3-year guys, you need a couple of them to hit. So, like, what if Schlotman turns out to be good? And you say, hey, that could be our center for 3 years, and we don't need to worry about it until 28.
You need a Pat Coogan draft pick to hit,
and you buy some time, and you need one of those. You need
Jackson Slater. Yeah.
Slater, to me, is the great example of a draft and develop guy. Now, maybe he doesn't work, but that's the idea. 6th rounder, sit a year, pan out the next year, right? So, and he's the one that we have in evidence. Or Marcus Harris is already in practice flipping to the other side of the ball. Did you expect this much out of him this fast? This is the ideal for Marcus Harris, to be your starting nickel in year 2 with this much confidence in him. So, let me, a couple of those short-term contracts to pan out, a couple of the later round draft picks to pan out, and then to wait on some more drafts to fill out.
I think if you look at the last 2 drafts and we say Cam Ward is really good, I think the investment in Falcon Hill, in Winston and Oladejo in particular, that's 4 of your highest 6 picks in the last 2 drafts.
Yeah.
That needs to be your defensive core. Yes, you need to add, K-Dot says we need to add more corners. Yes, there has to be a developed corner, probably high in the draft, first, second, third round next year. Just like we need an edge. The team needs an edge. But I don't, if Cam Ward, if you learn this year that Cam Ward is great, I think the receiving core is good. I think the first priority is the offensive line. You got to do offensive line. You can figure out running back. If Spears and Pollard don't get contract extensions and you want to try to ride with Singleton plus whatever that might mean, another late draft pick or a free agent back, I think that's okay because the offensive line is the next priority. If you learn that Ward is the thing, and you have to let Saleh with Simmons, John Franklin Myers, Hooker, and those 4 picks I just mentioned, that the defense has to be okay. Even without an edge player, the defense has to be good enough because that's the next thing you do. After you fix the offensive line, that's what will give you a chance to compete. But to win a Super Bowl, you're going to have to add talent to the pass rushing and to the cornerback room. So, like, if we're doing orders of operation, it's offensive line, and then it's corner and pass rusher for me. If we're
I maybe use Slater as the test case on offense for that building. Oladejo is a little bit of the test case on defense for me, like new coach, new scheme, wash of a first year, not the developmental first year that Slater had as a later pick.
Yeah.
We didn't miss any time, and he had all the practice and he had all the investment. Oladejo had a wash of a first year. He's got a not a position change, not as much a position change as a job description change. And, you know, it's early to say the clock's ticking, but also the clock's ticking. Like, you want to know in the first 6 weeks, do we have something here? Or is this heading towards a wash? Now, that's an impatient stance. I can't help but participate in it a little bit, you know?
I mean, Mike Borgonzi, of his highest 6 draft picks, he has taken a defensive end, an edge, a middle linebacker, and a safety. That has to fix the defense. That has to work somehow. 3 out of 4 of them, fine. But if Cam Ward is good and he can carry the offense, you got to fix the O-line around him, and then these picks have to land because otherwise you're going to get to that 4th or 5th year with Cam Ward. The offense could be in pretty good shape around him with the receiving core. I'm convinced you can find the running backs. You can find tight ends in the draft. But if Ward is the real deal and you fix the O-line, they are in the win now window. It is by year 3. It's 2028. It's 2029. And the defense has to be good enough to give them a chance to win big-time playoff games against teams like the Texans with their defense or offenses like, I guess, whatever Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes have left. I don't know what the next wave is going to look like of quarterback play. But I think it's offense first around Cam, and then it's defense. And I still don't know if that's good enough to get them to Super Bowl contention. I don't know.
Is the bar for Femi Landry, Ed Henry asks?
I would say that's pretty good, but
yeah, if Femi was Landry, I mean, Landry's leaner, right, and bendier.
If he gets to 8 or 9 sacks a year,
production wise, yes.
Yeah.
Physical type, no.
Defense wins championships. Be nice to my Borgo. Every year is different. Just watch. All right. Sinkers Beverages, paulkuharsky.com. And obviously make sure you fill out our survey, press forward, midtn.news. So those are the 3 things we need you guys to do. So let's go to the other side of this, which Dom Titan is very upset about. This was the title of the stream. How is this the title of the stream? First of all, it's used for engagement farming. So just, go with that. But I wanted to set this up both directions because I don't know, PK. I am still very few players do I have like a 50-50 projection on like I do with Cam Ward. There's part of me that watches him and thinks this guy's got all the things that it takes to be a very good player in the NFL. He needs a good coach and a good offense and a good scheme and a supporting cast, and they can win games. And then sometimes you watch him and you go, I don't know if I see it. And I really don't know. And that's part of why I wanted to do this. So let's say hypothetically he's a bust. Let's say by the end of this season, you figured out like he's still a bottom 5 quarterback in the league. Based on all the metrics, they still only win 5 games. The defense looks pretty good, but the offense hasn't made any strides. Now, I should have asked this question on the previous version too, but where does Brian Daboll fit into all of this? If things go great, is he here for 1 year? If they go great, is he here for 2 years? If they go terribly, is he here for 3 years? Like what is the what will dictate Brian Daboll's sort of journey through all of this?
Well, I mean, if Cam is really good, he's a very attractive candidate, but still he's a better it shapes him as a very good coordinator. It doesn't shape him as a very good head coach. And he wasn't a great head coach in New York. But you pair that. I mean, Saleh wasn't a very good head coach in New York and will have been doing a better job, in part because he was able to hire somebody like Daboll. So, it's a lot of complexity to it. And a lot of it depends on what goes on around the league. There's a huge turnover in the head coaching ranks in the league. Does that mean there's less turnover next year? Or does that mean people are quicker to turn over because turnover produced results? It's hard to say. If he's bad, offensive line remains. Part of the reason he'll be bad is because of the offensive line. Well, but we're presuming that he's bad on his own, that he's not a victim of circumstances the way that he was last year. I think he still gets a third year, unquestionably, as the starter, but that there'll be a quicker hook, and that 6 weeks in, it could be like Mariota, Tannehill, and so they need a Tannehill.
I think, Trubisky is Tannehill, basically. I mean, a high top 10 pick, third team, like it's not that different. My first question about if he's a bust is Mike Borgonzi's future. I can't imagine Mike Borgonzi is allowed to make the next choice. However,
absolutely going to be able to make the next choice.
Well, but this is what's interesting. I don't think there should be too much blame. Like the whole, and Ed asked this, is there a fair middle ground for Ward because he's the number 1 overall pick, boom or bust? And I think the reality is clearly in the middle. But that's not the way some folks view the number 1 pick. The problem is that draft class was just, there was no clear-cut number 1 pick. And I don't know how many times we got to say that. You took, I think, the risk of Cam Ward, even if I didn't think it was a good pick at the time, I still think the risk of him working out as your starting quarterback in a class with those types of players was the right thing to do. But you don't think they would move on from Borgonzi to make another quarterback selection?
Nor do I think they should. I mean, I think a GM that comes in, if he shows, if these other guys pan out, if Winston's a player, if the 2 first rounders this year are players, if Hill's a player, if the 2 drafts look good overall and Cam's just not panning out, again, for an organization that needs stability, he seems like a good football guy. And I think it would be more, look, you take the guy and you try. Our first coach didn't work out, and he was a quarterback guy. Now we've given him a good coordinator, and it didn't work out. It's more Cam than it is the choice of Cam.
I mean, how it looks is certainly important in this conversation, right? But if the defense is elite because Robert Saleh has fixed it, and Femi Oladejo and John Franklin Myers and Jermaine Johnson and Keldrick Falk and Anthony Hill and Kevin Winston are all really good, you're going to look at Saleh and Borgonzi and give them the credit. And so I could see that happening. It's a hard sell to the fans, though, I think, to bring him back to make another quarterback
pick.
It
again, and you've got Saleh in place, and then you got to hire a GM that sees with Saleh, and the power mechanisms are off. I'm almost always going to push. Like, I pushed for stability with people that were bad. So, I mean, Borgonzi, at least we know he's got a handle on the job, and he's a competent guy. Now, that job is judged by the level of talent you bring in.
It's a low bar.
I know, and certainly quarterback first. But if he misses on the quarterback and he hits on a lot of other stuff, I don't think he's out next year, certainly. And I don't think he'd be out the year after. I would give him a second crack at quarterback, depending on how things go.
Well, and that's ultimately the question: is if Cam is bust is not even a good word, but just like below average is probably, he's not going to be a bust because I think he's too good for that. But like, he starts another season, they go. I mean, they would, to be in a position to take another quarterback, they'd have to be in the 3-win range again. And I don't know how if they go 3 wins 3 years in a row with Borgonzi as the GM. I'm agreeing with you. I am more conservative when it comes to tossing things up and trying to change everything around. I'm more with you on that. I like stability. I think people aren't patient enough. We live in a society with media and takes that everyone has to make changes all the time, and it's just not always the smart thing. But 3 straight 3-win seasons or a 2-win season in multiple three, it's a hard sell.
I don't think 3 wins is in the realm of possibility this year.
I tend to agree with you also on that. I agree with you also on that. My first questions were Borgonzi, Saleh, and Dayball, and you're saying that they could learn that Cam Ward is not the answer at quarterback through this year or next year, and that those 3 would still get to keep their situations in theory. Dayball most likely to move on his own, obviously.
Well, certainly Saleh is not going to be a victim of Cam Ward.
So here's the question. In this choose your own adventure, could you learn that Cam Ward is not the answer? Learn at the same time that Borgonzi is doing a good job, that Saleh is the right answer at coach, and that the defense is good enough to compete for championships, and that all they're missing is the quarterback. They fix the receiving core because Borgonzi did a good job with Tate and with Iomanner and DK. Running back has been fixed. They fix offensive. Like, is it possible to do that in the next 3 to 5 years? We just got done saying that if Cam Ward is great, you still have to fix a bunch of stuff on offense.
I mean, it's certainly an uphill battle. And then you'd be asking again, a new quarterback resets the whole timetable and everything. But we've seen some guys come in and do things quickly. Caleb Williams in 2 years. Daniels, the first year was a big hit. How do you get back to the top of the draft again if you move up to winning 7 games? That's another difficulty. I want to be sure to hit on Gavis here. A couple comments back. He said, O-line guys can be fixed in a year. Look at the Bears 1 year and Ben Johnson fixed them. They changed out like 3 guys at least. They traded for Joe Thuney. I mean, when you trade for the offensive protector of the year, your offensive line gets back. That's not them fixing their offensive linemen. That's them changing their offensive linemen.
Is it possible for this team to win 7 or 8 games, make progress, and to still think that Cam Ward's not the answer? Is that possible?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's possible for us to think it for sure. I don't know about them. I mean, I think if they can get there, again, it depends on how they get there, how they look getting there, all of that. I find it hard to believe that they could get to 7 or 8 wins and for it to be a entirely run-based defensive method with a safe quarterback. If they're going to be that much better, I would think at least splash plays by the quarterback are going to be a factor in it, and those are the kind of plays that make him good.
I'll look. We'll wrap up this conversation. This was designed to be a summer conversation, to sort of be a thought exercise, to kind of think through what ifs, because I really don't. I don't think anyone knows what Cam Ward's going to be. I can guess on what I think a most likely scenario is, which might not even be what I project. But the most likely scenario is that he's like the 18th best quarterback in the NFL. He's pretty good. He's super talented. He can win some games, but he's not good enough to win a Super Bowl. Like that's the most likely scenario.
Is the 18th quarterback pretty good? 18th quarterback,
so.
Kind of good.
Okay.
Less than half.
I think he's if you just said Cam Ward's going to be an average quarterback, I think that would be the Kalshi poly market bet you should place. Right? Like elite, really, really good, average, bad, bust. There's 5 categories. The middle one is going to be the most likely scenario. If you had to guess.
I agree with that.
So that means on one game, he could be top 10. On one season, he could be number 12. On another season where he doesn't get support, he could be number 18.
The question is, here's the question, where you stand on that. And I think you and I stand in the same place on that. Like there are some people who I think are ridiculous that say, if you have an average quarterback, you need to be looking for a quarterback. I think, yeah, that'd be great if you had an average quarterback and you somehow fell into position to go after a guy that you were really confident was going to be really better than your guy? Sure. But that takes a lot of manipulation, sacrifice of other things that could make your good quarterback put him in position to win more games. It's not really realistic. Yeah, I'd stick with the good quarterback and get as good as I could around him and hope that, I'm a playoff team that could have a crack at it, especially in the AFC as it's currently constructed now, where there's like, if you had a good quarterback and you had a 10-7 season and got into the playoffs, would you look at the field and say, oh, there's no way we could get past X? Right now in the AFC, I don't think that's the way things stand. And so I'd be comfortable having that team.
If he is between 12 and 16 in the NFL for his career on average over time, because again, you're going to have ups and downs, right? I think what you are betting on as an organization is that Robert Saleh, Brian Daboll, Gus Bradley, Mike Borgonzi, Jeffrey Simmons to some degree now with the contract extension, that these guys are all the right answers. And if those guys are the right answers and they continue to draft and develop, they've got a sound defensive game plan and a coach who leads teams and develops players and maximizes talent, they have a coaching staff that does their job and a front office that does their job, and Cam Ward is between 12 and 16, you are competing in playoff games most of the season.
If he had
most seasons.
If he had 6 years between 12 and 16, he's the second best quarterback in franchise in Tennessee era history, correct?
I don't know. I guess, yeah. That's maybe that's the good way to, maybe that's a better way to ask it. Like,
Tannehill?
You're better than Tannehill. You're better than Mariota when Mariota was good. You're better than Kerry Collins.
Tannehill's clearly the second best now. So is that better than Tannehill?
Well, at Tannehill's best, yes. But I think it's about longevity. If he gives you 8 years of maybe slightly better, or slightly worse than Tannehill's best, that would also make you the second best quarterback in franchise.
But in my thing, if it gave you 6 years of that between 12 and 16, is he a better career Titans quarterback than Tannehill?
Probably.
I don't think you sneeze at that.
No, and that's what I'm saying is.
I mean, you want better with the number one pick in the draft?
Yeah.
Yes. The circumstances here dictate otherwise? Yes. So that's not that high a bar.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. If he is better than Tannehill, generally, because I don't think you can ask for Cam Ward.
You should have a crack at a couple AFC championship games.
Tannehill's absolutely best season where he led the NFL in yards per attempt and all this other stuff. That's not what you're talking about here, because that's not what Tannehill really was for his career. That was his best season.
Maybe Cam would have,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You have some good ones in there and you have some bad ones in there. But if you're about 13, 14, 15 in the NFL, then what matters is all the other decisions. It's drafting Winston and Falk and Hill and Oladejo and picking Saleh, and it's all the other decisions that then have to be right. And if all of it works out, guess what, guys? You can compete for a Super Bowl. Like the Packers, my team, they're right about this stuff all the time, and they cannot win a playoff game. So I just, maybe the better question is, can Cam Ward be better than Jordan Love?
I mean, Joey thinks Cam Williams is Cam's ceiling. Shit.
Caleb Williams. Yeah.
Caleb Williams. Yeah. I would take Caleb Williams last year. If that's his ceiling, sign me up.
Caleb does have some strange. There's something weird about him, but he is an infinitely is not fair. He is a substantially better prospect coming out of college than Cam Ward was, and has far more gifts, in my opinion, than Cam Ward.
Which means if Cam could be that as his ceiling, that'd be a huge win.
Yeah. Gavin, I could coach Cam Ward or Hendon Hooker to the top. Seems not a single.
It's just work. So the guys who are doing it aren't working. Brian Daboll doesn't work.
Paul, not a single head coach in the NFL or coordinator who's made millions of dollars to do this has ever coached Hendon Hooker to the top.
Yeah,
let alone the starting lineup,
including guys who have coached Jared Goff.
Yeah. To the top.
Pretty good things.
All right. Well,
he doesn't know that the sun rises in the east.
Tannehill didn't know who was in the AFC East when the Dolphins drafted him. One of my favorite moments.
Less offensive than
I guess that's true. That's true. All right. Well, look, this was a thought exercise. I just want people to think through, like, what has to, like, okay, you find out if he's great. Okay, you find out if he's bad. What's going to happen? What are the next steps? And I just wanted to do a thought exercise today. Otherwise, paulkuharsky.com. What do you got for the people coming up this week on the website?
Film look at an interior offensive line and the start of a series on what 30 years on the beat has taught me, starting with cornerback depth.
Oh, you're gonna do some lamestream sports with us about all this stuff?
If you like.
Or is it just football? It's just football lessons, not like media lessons. Okay. Lessons. All right. Special thanks to Sinkers Beverages. Do appreciate it. Obviously, fill out our media survey there. It's press forward. It's not ours, but we're promoting it. It's pressforwardmidtn.news. So check that out. paulkuharsky.com. Drink good local craft beer as well, please. East Nashville Beer Works for all your watch parties for the World Cup on Wednesday, of course, against Bosnia and Herzegovina. And hopefully the USA continues to roll. Other than that, are you feeling good about Wednesday night? Or are you too optimistic, or what are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel really good, but I also know that
that's bad.
I'm probably feeling too good. We have somebody that helps us around the house with Bosnian roots, and as soon as she walked in the house today, I said, "You're going down."
Please stop talking trash to the help, Paul. Let's get through the win first. Like, we're the
talk trash.
We're not the country in soccer that can talk trash to people.
Going into this game, if you can't talk a little trash, I mean,
if you have a Bosnian and Herzegovinian in your life, I suppose go for it.
She talked right back. So.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right. Thank you for hanging out, man. Happy 4th of July to everybody out there. Nick is on vacation, but we're going to do a show anyway because he wanted to do a show after having a few beers. So that's what he said. That's crazy. What he said.
Where is he on vacation?
That's what he said. I'm not going to out the guy.
Where does Nick go to drink a few beers?
I would guess somewhere with sand and sun. I would guess.
Good for him.
This time of year. All right. Thank you guys all for hanging out. Please rate, review, subscribe, fill out the survey. paulkuharsky.com, Sinkers Beverages. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. We'll be back later this week. Have a good one. Thanks.
Yep.